Okay, that's it. I'm giving up. I'm giving up on my sailboat. Yeah, I'm gonna walk away, I count my losses, and I'm done. No, I'm not. No, I will never do that. But I felt like making this video for all of you who having those type of thoughts. Well, recently a good friend of mine, he started again the rhetoric that he just wants to give up on a sailboat. He wants to sell it. He's done with it because of a couple of, recent mishaps. Nothing big, but it just all, accumulates to the point that he's finally to the point of, well, just saying, I'm giving up. It's too much work, too much money. Yeah, and all the above. Okay, now, to me, I don't understand it because I've been through this so many times with so many people. They getting all enthusiastic about their boats. Oh yeah, I'm gonna fix it up. I'm gonna sail around the world or whatever the end goal is. It doesn't really matter. And I'm not talking about powerboats. I want to kind of limit this strictly to sailboats because sailboats in lots of ways they're very unique. And I don't have to get into the details why they are different from powerboats. I mean, everybody should know that. Okay, now about myself. My name is York. For about the past 10 years, I'm working on my Alberg 37 project. So it's basically a 37-foot boat, classic sloop, full keel boat called the Alberg 37, designed by Carl Alberg, built by Whitby Boat Works. Anyways, it's neither here nor there. Before that, I had a Tartan 27, and before that, some smaller sailboats. Personally, I would say I have, well, at least 20 some years of experience in completely, well, renovating, rebuilding, or whatever you want to call it, sailboats. So I know exactly how much work it is, and it is a lot. Okay, so the purpose of this video is I actually want to help people who are like-minded, who really have a passion for their boat. And I don't really care what boat you have and what you're going to do with the boat. It's your boat. You like your boat or don't like your boat. That's your personal choice. But anyways, I would like to help people not to give up, not to walk away, not coming with this rhetoric, I count my losses and I'm be done with. One of the biggest things, and I want to say that right from the get-go, do not listen to those stereotypes, to those absolute garbage phrases. Like boat, what does it stand for? Oh, bring on another 1,000. God grief. Or what's the two best days in boat ownership? Well, the day you buy it and the day you sell it. You know what? That goes like kind of like in the same category like happy wife, happy life. Really? Is that what you think? If that's your mindset, just really just walk away. Turn this video off, walk away from your boat. Or now the individual category. If you're lazy, and you know who you are, if you're lazy, turn around, turn this video off, please. Please do everybody a favor. You're not the type of person who should even own a boat. At least not something that you have to work on. So, second type of people, if you have absolutely no skills, and I'm not gonna blame anybody. I mean, everybody's different. But if you are absolutely incapable of even putting a nail in the wall to hang up a picture frame. I mean, I'm talking about that unskilled. It isn't for you. So, next thing. If you're looking for instant gratification, no. Sailboats, really, no, it's not your thing. If you have a spouse, a wife, a girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, whatever it is, a family member, too many friends who you think you have to ask for permission, you set yourself up for failure. Okay? So, with other words, look at it like this. If you want to restore your boat, if you want to work in your boat with the goal that you actually one day can enjoy it, don't listen to anybody, because people by nature are negative. Some people do it out of spite. Some people do it because they're jealous or envious. When some people just don't know any better, they actually think they do you a favor by telling you just give up. In my personal situation, giving up isn't an option because I have the passion. So with that said, you have to have vision, okay? You have to visualize yourself how your boat's going to look like one day. And it doesn't matter how much work it needs. Do you have a boat that needs a full restoration? So be it. You know, it doesn't matter. Just get on with it. Another thing is, I know I'm skipping probably from one end to the other because I'm very passionate about all this, you know, and I don't really have a script. I don't have an editor. And my videos are fairly shitty. I know that, you know. Sorry about my accent. I can't help it. English wasn't my native language. So for all you trolls who have to correct me on my whatever mispronunciations, fine. Just have a field day. Anyways, let's get on with this. Okay, where was I? So, the biggest thing is, like I said, have a vision. You have to visualize yourself what the end game is here. Not what you're gonna do with the boat. That's irrelevant. Whether you wanna sail around the world or just do some coastal cruising, or even just sit with this thing on the dock and enjoy a day in a marina. I don't care, you know. So. But take one day at a time. Don't make plans. Don't buy a boat or whatever, even if you have already, or if you have your boat already. Don't set yourself like impossible goals. Like, okay, next year I'm gonna cruise around the world with this thing, or I'm going to the Bahamas, or wherever, Caribbean, whatever you want to do. Don't make plans up to the moment your boat is completely 100% seaworthy. I mean 100%. Not like, okay, it needs a little bit here and there. No, this is not what I'm talking about. Get the boat seaworthy before you make any plans to go anywhere with the boat. Get the interior done that you actually feel comfortable with it. That you actually, you know, can spend a night in there, watch some movies, or do whatever you want to do, you know. Okay, so I think I'm just gonna run some random pictures in the background so you guys don't have to look at my ugly face. Back to the reason for why I feel I want to make this video. I have several friends who have in the past tried to restore various sailboats, and so far everybody gave up. The reasons were pretty much always the same. It's lack of time, lack of passion, it's getting too expensive, or, well, simply this typical phrase, I'm just overwhelmed. It's just too much. Does that sound familiar? Yeah, I bet it does. Huh? So yeah, in the background, this is basically just random pictures from my Albert, my current boat. Well, it's going to also be my last boat. It basically starts out with I just bought the boat. It was sitting in a boatyard, riding away for about 10 years. The boat was sold several times within the yard, bought and sold, and by people who gave up right away. So, like I said, the reasons for giving up is almost always the same. And I don't really think anybody plans giving up. It's just, like I said in the beginning of this video, there's lots of influence coming from pretty much every corner. I have various people, the typical question is, for instance, anybody who knows you knows what you're doing. I hear that a lot. They call me, they talk, and so what are you doing on to this weekend? Well, I'm working on my boat like usually. That's mostly my answer. And then the next question usually sounds like, so how much more do you have to do? And it's in the beginning I was trying to be nice and say stuff like, well, I'm doing right now some fiberglass work, and then I have to get back to some electrical work, and oh really? And then so how much longer you think it's gonna take? And so after some time listening to the same rhetoric over and over, it's kind of like it goes like this. Two people meet and will say, hey, how are you doing? You know what? Nobody really gives a shit. It's just a politeness phrase that everybody thinks they have to say. So I started getting borderline, I wouldn't really say nasty, but kind of short, and said to people who constantly ask the same thing, so how much more do you have to do? I would reply then, what is it to you? This is my boat. You have no idea about a boat. You have no interest. Why do you keep asking the same stupid shit over and over? And it really doesn't go anywhere. You're wasting my time and you're wasting valuable breath. So, am I a little bit antisocial? Yeah, probably. Maybe I am. Who cares? Okay. So, people, if you are in a long-term project and you know it's going to be a long-term project, best is keep it to yourself. You don't need anybody's approval, and don't seek for outside validation. Validate yourself. So for instance, every time you're working on a boat, set yourself small goals. I mean, something that you can actually finish within a day or two or weekend, whatever your time frame is. If you still full-time work, like I did in the beginning, you may only have the weekends. Doesn't really matter. If you're retired or you're in a position that you can work basically anytime you want on your boat, well, even better. But still, the easiest way not to get overwhelmed, don't look at the whole thing. Okay, I have to do this and then that and then this and that, and I have to put a new motor in, and then I have to put all the electric, and then I have to reinforce the bulkheads, then I have to do check the rigging and what have you. No, this is not how this works. If you do that, you're really gonna completely psychologically overwhelm yourself. What you do is pick whatever task you want to do. Let's say you want to work on the anchor locker, okay? For instance, every sailboat has an anchor locker, one way or another. And they're all nasty. They're always nasty. Oh, if you want to see some real dirt and nasty shit, go look in your anchor locker. Especially if you use your boat in salt water. It's atrocious. Anyway, so take the anchor out, take the chains out, rope, whatever you got whatever shit is in that anchor locker, especially the crap that doesn't belong in there. The fenders and crap doesn't belong in the anchor locker. Anyways, clean it up. Clean it really, really nice, and then start working on anything you see that's broken. I'm talking about fiberglass boats. I'm not getting into steel boats, wooden boats, aluminum boats, all sorts of shit. Let's stick with the fiberglass. You're going to have fiberglass damages wherever you run shit by, Anyway, so for instance, just tell yourself one weekend, I'm just going to clean this anchor locker up and then sand it down and do fiberglass repair. And be happy by the end of the day of what you have accomplished. Don't look forward, look back. Take pictures, make videos. I do it. I take pictures most of the time just for my own personal satisfaction. So I'm looking every time I get overwhelmed and think, what do I have to do? What is still ahead of me? I'm going to scroll through my pictures and just think, wow, this is really how nasty that looked. And look how it's now. It's done, So that gives you a great feeling. So you feel like you really have done something, and you did. Whatever little thing you have done, and do it right. Don't put band-aids on there. This is another big thing. Do not band-aid nothing. Don't do nothing temporary. Temporary means you have to get back to it, and you're gonna do the same job over. Makes no sense. I mean, seriously, just take your time and fix it right. Okay. So I'm gonna jump a little bit back and forth because my mind is really, I have a little bit of ADD and I can't focus on one thing for a very long time. So at one point in time, when I bought my Allberg, I bought it in 2015. I actually have quite some video clips here on my channel. If you're interested, just please scroll back and feel free to watch those clips, and I would appreciate it. But anyhow, when I bought the boat, the engine was locked up. The engines are always shit for the most part, unless somebody just dropped a brand new motor in, and I'm talking about a quality motor, something like Yanmar, Beta Marine, or something like that. If you have some 50-year-old Perkins or whatever Volvo Penta motor in there, just have the mindset that engine has to come out and has to be redone. So in my case, the engine was already locked up in the boatyard. They had a crane, and I told them, pull the damn engine out. I take it home. I'm a automotive technician, so rebuilding motors is really nothing to me. So that wasn't even a hiccup in my situation. I get to this whole engine thing a little bit later, because I know this is a big one. Lots of people struggle with this shit, but I'm gonna make this easier and trying to encourage. See, this whole video is really I'm trying to encourage you not to give up. Again, don't give up. Don't put a price tag on this on the damn boat either. That meaning, of course, let me put it this way. I'm going to say this right out the way I feel. This is how I feel. This is my experience, and this is just my opinion. So all of you people who get offended by that, again, just walk away. I personally can't stand boat flippers. People who buy a boat solely for the purpose of lining their greedy pockets. And the reason why I can't stand those people, they are a pest. They make one shortcut after the other. They're hiding problems. They're notorious for hiding problems. They have rigged surveys. They put paint over every turd there is. By the end of the day, it's still a turd. It doesn't matter, And they're gonna. It's borderline fraudulent what those people do, because if you have a boat that's 15, 20, or in my case, my boat is 50 years old, there is no chance in hell that I could make money by restoring it and selling it. It is absolute garbage. It's not happening. If just the time, I'm not talking about the physical money, the actually dollar value I put in the boat, which is really not all that much in the end. But if I take my labor hours, I mean, there's thousands of hours of labor involved. So if I were to even sell the boat with 3 or 4 times the money I actually paid for this thing, I'm still going to end up only making probably like 17 cents per hour for my labor hour. So it makes no sense. So the only way a person who flips boats can make money, if they do a real shit work. Seriously, you know what, I better stop here because I don't want to let this, I don't want to turn this into some ranting. Anyway, so again, back to the person who really has the passion, who really wants to have his or her boat done. So at one point in time, I had my boat. I transported it basically from the boatyard I bought it to the marina I was in Hudson, Florida. I had a friend of mine pull me with my back then Tartan 27 that I still owned, and he just towed me 200 miles from South Florida back to Hudson. And I had it in the marina for about 4 or 5 months, and I worked there. I took a couple of times. I sailed it, just to see. Wasn't really sailing. It was just testing the boat out. And at one point in time, I realized, okay, I'm gonna have to pull this boat back out and work on it. So that gets me to the next step: boatyards. Okay. So here's the thing: a boatyard is a necessary evil. If you own a boat that you can put on a trailer and pull out of the water with your own vehicle, eventually you're going to need a boatyard. You're going to have to do bottom jobs. You have to do underwater line repair, or in general repairs that you cannot perform when the boat is on the water. At least not easy. I mean, unless you do it like in the old days, you find yourself a remote beach and run the boat on the ground on high tide and let the low tide go back, and the boat lays on the side and you work, and when tide comes back, throw it on the other side. Well, people do that. I wouldn't recommend it because somehow environmentalists and authorities, they're kind of like, for some reason, I don't like it. Idiots. Anyways, so you're going to need a boatyard sooner or later. So the boatyard I used for having my boat initially pulled out was in Hernando Beach, Florida. That's Gulf of Mexico for those people who are not familiar. The boatyards, the further you go into South Florida, the more expensive those boatyards get. And the ones that are closer to where I live, since it's not a touristy area, it's not that populated, they're fairly reasonable. So it's kind of like they vary, of course, in how much they cost. So I think that was around 2017. It was something like $17 a day. And you can work on your own. So this is another thing. You need to find a boatyard where they let you do all the work on your own and give you plenty access to the boat. Not like very restrictive. I mean, some boatyards, I say, okay, only 3 days a week or something like that. Preferably, and there's some of them out there, they give you basically 24/7 access. You know, there's some of them around. You know, I don't know in what particular area you have available, but make sure it is a do-it-yourself yard. And here I tell you the reason why. If that's a yard that they want to do the work for you, I mean, it makes no sense. You might as well buy a brand new boat, because they're going to charge you so much money for mostly, I'm not saying all of them. I mean, there's probably some of them have some pride left, but most of them, and that is really like personal experience with, I mean, not me personally, because I do the work on my own, but I have various friends. They couldn't do the work or didn't want to do the work on their own and paid the boatyard to do something like simple things. Let's say a bottom job. And I would use the phrase piss poor at best. That's what they got for a lot of money. With in the end effect, I mean, there was one extreme example. One of my friends, she actually owns a yacht brokerage, so she thought she doesn't have the time, and she lives in Sarasota, Florida, expensive area, and there was a boat yacht that matched pretty much the expensiveness of this particular area. So she had a 39-foot sailboat, basically just needed the bottom job. Of course, they quoted her $1,500 plus another $500 for materials, which it appeared reasonable, you know. Well, not to me, but to her. Anyhow, so they also told her it's gonna take a couple of 3 days after the haul out. They have to, wash the boat down. Usually they pressure wash it, whatever, sand old shit off, and do some blister repair. They always have blisters. They're gonna tell you the boat has blisters. Well, some do. It's not that big of a deal, really. But it doesn't matter. The boat yard always gonna tell you have blisters. They're gonna have to be repaired, and of course, it's gonna be all of a sudden the price almost doubles. So that's what they did. So then there was every day there was always something else. Finally, she called me up and says, "Hey, can you help me? Let's go to this yacht. I want to see." So this is what happens. We got there to the boat, and there sits this. He looked to me like a teenager, a teenage boy, I would say. He sits there with this tiny little Black & Decker. I mean, a cheap ass orbital sander. I use orbital sander on my boat pretty much for everything, but not a cheap ass Black & Decker. I mean, come on, there's a limit to how cheap can you go. And he had a sanding disc on this thing that was so damn worn out. I mean, it looked like almost like a piece of paper. And he was just sanding. I mean, just having his little hand going in a probably 10 square inch circle. And he just sat there on this chair, and then he sanded a little bit, and then he did what he called the blister repair. I personally didn't see no blisters. I saw little nicks here and there, but no blisters really. That boat wasn't even known for having blisters. But I didn't want to get in a pissing contest. And then he had this putty material. I couldn't even identify it as. It looked to me like regular cheap ass Bondo, filler, polyester based filler. And he put a dab here and a dab there, and he didn't even wait till it dries and kept sanding over. So make a long story short, because I don't want to make the whole video about it, another week or so went by, and I finally said the boat is ready. Now this initial $1,500 estimate all of a sudden turned into a $7,000 bill. She was actually thinking about taking a lawyer or something like that, but at that moment they would have just left the boat sit there, because then you get into an area where, it's not about the boat anymore. Then all of a sudden you're litigating in court, which is I'm not even getting into it. So she paid it, put the boat back in the water, transported it to her marina, and she ended up pissing another about $10,000 away on the boat, because she just never did any work on her own. I did some engine work, charged her very reasonable, but still, I had to travel. She still had to pay me, So she ended up, besides putting a new used motor in there, so there goes another $5,000-6,000 just for the damn motor. And she ended up selling the boat with a huge loss. I mean, in a sense, I would say, almost serves her right, because she was just greedy. She's I would say, somewhat of a friend. But greed got a hold of her, and she got punished for it, and rightfully so. Anyway, so the person who bought the boat afterwards had the boat for about 3-4 months, and then they decided to have it pulled out, because they had a diver going under there to get rid of the marine growth. Every so often you have to do that, especially in those warm waters, even if you have active bottom paint on there, algae gets around it, and, it smuts it up. So the diver tells her there is no bottom paint on the boat. So that lady called me up and says, hey, do you know anything about that? And I said, as far as I know, because I know that my friend paid $7,000 to have a bottom job done. But anyways, they had the boat pulled back out, and sure as heck, there was no more bottom paint on there. So what the heck did they put actually on this boat? They must have used some watercolor or some shit. Or if they put a bottom paint on there, then it probably was a seasonal one coat thing. So the moral of that story is, do not pay a boatyard to put bottom paint on your boat. Seriously. That's just, that's almost, that should almost be an unspoken law. So what I want to say with this here, if you can't do at least most of the work on your boat by yourself, and I'm talking about most of the work, like 90%, even if there's something that you're not familiar with. Lots of people, they have a little bit hard time getting into fiberglass work. It really is. It's really totally easy. Once you get, it's nothing but routine. As a matter of fact, it can actually be fun because you have to look at like a piece of art. You're actually creating something. There was nothing there before, and then something is there. It's very rewarding. People believe me. It is. I mean, I wasn't born knowing how to do fiberglass work. Heck, I can't tell you how many boats are fucked up in the past. Well, lucky they were just little power boats or shit. But it's all a learning curve. I had to learn everything on my own too. But one thing I always thought in the back of my head, those boats are not built in outer space by some extraterrestrial species that is much more intelligent than we are. Those boats are built by human beings. They're designed by human beings, and they're built by workers who, for the most part, are probably even unskilled. They just know that by the routine, that's what they got to do. So ask yourself, what is the reason why you think there's anything on your boat that you can't do by yourself? What is really the reason? Again, it goes back to, you may think you can't do it, but you can. And again, don't go ask anybody else about their opinion if you can or cannot do that. It's nobody else's business. You are basically a one-person operation there. And and another thing, talking about that, do not team up. Don't have friends help you on your boat. That's holy shit. No, don't do it. Work on your own, because number one, you don't own anybody anything afterwards. And what makes you believe that somebody who helps you has the same quality mindset that you have? Because it's not their boat, let's face it. Okay, let's see what else. So again, as far as boat yards, you will need them eventually. But find a do-it-yourself boatyard, and preferably one that has not too many restrictions, because they're all very restrictive because of environmental issues, which I'm not even going to get into. But find some that are a little bit off the beating path. They're usually more lenient. They get away with a lot more shit, So. I decided at one point in time that I actually had my boat transported out of the boatyard to my own property. Now, this is something unique, and most people cannot do that. I was in a lucky position. I have a few acres of land, pretty much out in the sticks. Yes, Florida is pretty much overpopulated, but I live in an area that's kind of more north central Florida. So I had the room, I had the space, and I had tolerant neighbors. As a matter of fact, I'm not living in a stupid HOA, so I can pretty much do whatever I want. So it cost me several $1,000s to have my boat transported to my land, but it made it all easier, because now I could work 24/7 on the boat. Now I did some mistakes too, but my biggest mistake was that at one point in time I felt a little bit burned out, and everybody's gonna go through this. You will feel burned out, like I did too. So sometimes I was like several months went by, I didn't even touch the boat. It was sitting right there. It was almost laughable. I could just easily work on it, but I didn't because I got into something else, you know. And you know what? Don't beat yourself up over it. If you feel like you're getting a little bit burned out, walk away from it for a little bit and just do something else, but get back to it eventually. It'll come to you, plain and simple. So I had my boat sitting on my property for about 6 years. I got a lot done, but there was a lot that I didn't get done because of the fact that I just didn't dedicate enough time on it. But that's my own fault, and again, that's why I'm trying to share this with all of you who feel they're getting burned out and want to walk away. Again, don't walk away till you think of every angle possible, okay? So my boat is now back in the water since about 6-7 months, and I'm still working on it. But I'm seeing the light of the at the end of the tunnel. I clearly can see it. The boat is seaworthy. I'm right now just keep myself disciplined that I've finished the interior, and I keep uploading videos too about the progress, you know, and it's just it has been a long stretch. So I'm at it really for 10 years, but it doesn't really matter because that's what I choose to do. So talking about money, how much money do you really have to put in your boat? Well, it all depends. The materials, for the most part, if you're a little bit smart, that means don't make a place like West Marine your go-to store for any type of material you need to buy for your boat. Stay away from it. As far as interior work, what materials do you use? You use fiberglass, you use wood. That is about the two most common materials that you use inside your boat. Home Depot, Lowe's, any kind of building supply. Heck, sometimes you may have shit laying around in your house that you don't need anymore that you can repurpose for your boat. Fiberglass supply. Get it online, get it from a wholesaler, you know. The fiberglass mats, the material itself is really, I would say, borderline dirt cheap. Now you can pay lots of money. Like I said, run to West Marine and they're gonna ream it to you. they're gonna see you coming a mile away, buddy. Trust me. This store is for snobs, okay? This store is made for people who own yachts. You know, I don't have a yacht. I got a boat, okay? That's just the way it is. Anyhow, so you can, in a pinch, I've bought some shit at West Marine. In a pinch, you know, you need a couple of little things here and there, you know, before I drive all the way home, which is about 45 miles one way. But there's in a 7-mile vicinity from my marina is a West Marine. You know what? I'll buy something for $10-15 that would have cost me online half the money, but I'm not going to spend $50 in fuel to drive back and forth and what have you and stop the work. That's what West Marine is for. I'm not saying every so often they have a sale on something, maybe a nice chart plot or something. Who knows? I mean, just keep an open mind. But don't look at West Marine pricing and, oh my God, this is how much my boat is going to cost. You know, seriously, I shouldn't even have to say that because you're a damn fool if you think that. So, fiberglass, the resin. The best resin what I found to work with is indeed it's epoxy. So there's different grades. You want the marine grade epoxy, which is for laminating. It's usually a mixture of the 5-to-1 mixture. You know, it's very low viscosity. That's what you need for absorbing the mats. You can buy the stuff from West Marine. It is actually strangely not too expensive, and it's very good. It's called the West Systems 105, and then usually use a slow hardener. That's what I use for the most part. That's a 206. So you're looking at a gallon kit between 160 $170, depends on what location you are. But I found there's various online outfitters. I found for the past 3-4 years I'm buying from a company called Total Boat, and they're selling basically the same quality epoxy. It's just packaged different for about 20-30% less. And if you buy plenty of it, you get free shipping. You get the drift. It's good stuff, you know. So I don't want to get too much into the materials because, you know, I can make this video 27.5 hours long, and we're still never going to get to the end of it. Oh yeah, and by the way, this is a long video. If you don't have the patience to sit through it, well, you know, you got to ask yourself, do you then have the patience actually to spend a few years working on your boat? Probably not, you know. So when I had my boat initially transported to my property and started working all enthusiastic, well, I have one particular friend, he's got some money and he owned several sailboats. And he did various work. Some he did on his own, some he outsourced. Because he had plenty money, it didn't matter really how much money he dumped in a boat. For instance, he had a Catalina 30, which didn't need much, but then he screwed a bunch of things up, burned up the motor and what have you. Make long story short, by the time he was done with everything, well, I'm not saying the boat was done, but when he was done with the boat, he sunk about $50,000 into this Catalina 30. A Catalina 30? Seriously? Think about it. A Catalina 30 was never worth $50,000 in the begin with, let alone one that's 25 years old. And then he gave it away. He was burned out. He told me one day, York, I'm done with it. I just give up. If you want the boat, you can have the boat. He offered me the boat. He wanted to give me the boat, which the same boat I worked on many times. I actually rebuilt his motor twice because he fucked it up twice in a row, but it didn't matter. So he paid me quite some money to work on his boat, and then he wanted to give me the boat. But I'm not into the Carolinas. I'm sorry. So I declined. And I'm not a boat flipper because I find it unethical. I said, give it to somebody else who wants to have a boat, which he did, which I hope he made somebody happy. But because of his mindset, and that wasn't really his first boat. He owned like several sailboats, good ones too. And every single one of them, he walked away because he just either got bored or didn't want to spend the time on it, or various reasons. But the most part is, he just gave up. And then he kept on saying, you know, you transported your boat to your property. You know, it's never going to go back in the water. And people, this is exactly the rhetoric you have to stay away from. If somebody tells you, oh, you're never going to get this finished, you're never going to put it back in the water, oh, now you started this and this is going to cost you more than your house is going to be. Those type of people, they are toxic. You need to get them, if you don't want to get them out of your life, get them away from your boat. You need to get them away from your boat, because this toxicity, it will gonna go into your mind like a virus. It's gonna work on it. You're gonna ponder over it, and it's gonna drain you of your energy. Then the next time you go to your boat, this kind of shit is gonna run around in your subconscious. And the biggest thing is, once you lose your mojo, you sit there and you're gonna stare at your boat and you're gonna be overwhelmed. You get in your car and you drive home and you never want to see this boat again. So stay away from negative people. So now I'm gonna get into something, and lots of people that just probably want to scream in my face and whatever. I encountered this a lot when I sold, for instance, my last boat that I had, my Tartan 27, which was a good boat. I had it. It didn't need much work anymore. I focused more on keeping it seaworthy than beautification. So I had a little bit of a hard time selling it. But I had to get rid of it because at this point in time I had my Allberg in the same marina, and I couldn't afford paying two slip fees. I just couldn't. I'm not a high income guy. I really have to. I compensate with my physical labor for the lack of the money I have. So various people come looking at the boat, and then from almost every second person after they're done looking at the boat, and would say, okay, I like the boat, but I got to talk to the wife. The third person who said that to me, I couldn't help myself. I'm gonna say, listen, do you have a penis? Seriously, you got to talk to the wife? If you have to talk to the wife about your boat, you'll never get it done. Never. I'm telling you that. Divorce the damn wife. Get rid of the girlfriend, whatever. Unless you have a wife or girlfriend which is not just supportive about it, but shares your passion, is just about as enthusiastic, or maybe hopefully even more enthusiastic than you are, and actually want to contribute. Maybe she wants to go inside the boat and does all the beautification, clean up, organize stuff. Man, you got it made. But if you have in a relationship with any person, and that goes both ways. If you are female, most my audience is not female, but for the few who are, and I really salute you. I have nothing but respect for women who single-handed sailing those boats or even work on the boats. I have more respect for the women who actually work and do their own repair than any man, really, because women don't have the physical strength as a man. I'm not saying there's lots of physical strength you need on working on a boat, but it is physically can be demanding. But anyways, if you have a husband, boyfriend, or whatever, wife that is not supportive, you're gonna fail. They're gonna take, so to speak, the wind out of your sails. And this is what happened just this past weekend. I'm trying to I try to help my friend transporting his sailboat from the marina to a different place. And he just had an electric motor installed, and we just barely made it out of a couple of canals, and all of a sudden the motor it stopped. I don't know why it stopped, but he put new batteries in there. The motor is brand new, and we couldn't figure it out. We had to get towed back in by Towboat US. The first thing coming out of his mouth, the moment that boat stopped, the motor stopped. And it was pretty windy, and we got blown into the seawall, and while we were able to hold the boat in place, the towboat showed up. But the first thing out of his mouth is, that's it, I'm selling the boat. Holy shit. The first thing coming out of his mouth is, I'm selling the boat. Because his wife doesn't support him. The weekend before, he was supposed to prep the boat. He put new batteries in there. He put a whole battery bank of brand new lithium ion batteries in there, because the flooded batteries didn't do it. The motor didn't run long enough. So the first thing I said, because he said, how long do you think those batteries going to last? I said, here's what you do. Spend the weekend on the boat. The boat is strapped on the dock. Turn the motor on. Engage it. Let it, whatever propeller, go forward or backward, doesn't really matter. Boat doesn't go anywhere. And let's say go half power, whatever you want to do, and let this thing run till the batteries die, and time it. Nothing's going to happen. At one point in time, they're going to kick off the motor. Once the motor controller registers not enough voltage anymore, it turns the computer off, the motor stops. He didn't do it. For some reason, he didn't do it, because the wife wanted to go out and visit with the grandchildren. See, this is the problem. It is more important to go to the grandchildren's little fucking things. The grandchildren always need something or want something. You got to make a choice. Go play with the grandchildren or dedicate yourself on the boat. But anyway, long story short, they never did that. So I couldn't tell you what happened, because I wasn't too familiar with the setup of an electric motor, even though I think it's a great thing. But again, the motor all of a sudden stopped. We made it. We weren't on the water for 10-15 minutes, and now again, his sister wants to sell the boat. He got the boat for 7 or 8 years. Got lots of sailing experience, but never really owned a boat. The boat doesn't really need that much anymore. but he doesn't get the support from his wife. And I told him, I said, okay, you're gonna have to make a decision. I mean, there's really not many options. Most likely he's gonna walk away from the boat. Well, I'm pretty sure this is what he's gonna do, and he's gonna whine and bitch about it, and he's gonna try to find ways to rationalize why he's gonna walk away from the boat. The reason really is, number one, it's partially his own fault, because he's the type of guy who looks also for instant gratification, and he likes to socialize. Socializing is more important than solitude on a sailboat. So, out of which yoga, I said, well, get rid of the wife, keep the boat. It's really going to be cheaper and less bitching. I was in a similar situation about 10 years ago, about 15 years ago. I had a girlfriend. We're living together. Nice woman. I had no complaints. We had a great relationship. That's when I just got the tartan. The tartan needed lots of work too. And on the weekends, I went to the boat because I still worked full time. And after about it was about 3-4 weekends, Friday evening, I start packing my shit, getting everything ready to go work on the boat. She would say, at one point in time, are you going to work on the boat again this weekend? And, well, my first instinct was kind of sarcastic. I said, well, I can just stay here because the boat probably is going to fix itself. So she started cocking a little bit of an attitude, but it blew over. I went to the boat, but you know what? It drained energy. It really did drain energy. So what ended up happening, I went to the boat and instead of spending the night on the boat and come back Sunday afternoon, I said, fuck it. I want peace at home because I really liked her. I packed my shit and went home. She was all happy. She cooked me some nice meal and everything was fine. And the next weekend, well, the same rhetoric started again. And this time I said, okay, I don't want to hear it anymore. If you feel like you don't want to be alone here, you can come with me. She said, no, I'm going to be bored. Not my fucking problem. So it was maybe a couple of weeks later, I got the speech. We have to talk. So she said, at one point in time, you're really going to have to make a decision. It's going to be either me or the boat. Man, that was my easiest fucking decisions I ever had to make in my life. Without even hesitation, I said, it's going to be the boat. Because the reason is, the boat is not going to bitch at me. The boat doesn't come and complain at me. I said, here's my take to this. There's the door. Don't let it hit you on the way out. Well, that's me, okay? I'm not saying kick your significant others to the curb, but be aware. And it's a big one. It's a real big one. If you undergo a project boat, I mean, I'm really talking about a full restoration of a sailboat, especially the older ones. They need lots of work. If you don't have the support from people in your life that you want to keep in your life, you're doomed to fail. Give up on the boat and make a decision. Everybody else who is really dedicated, again, don't listen to nobody. Keep going. Keep working on your boat. Enjoy it. Okay, now let's go. Where was I? I'm getting so carried away with this shit. Okay, yes. Let's say what I think the type of people who are probably not gonna follow through. And this is really not, I'm not going to point fingers or trying to devalue anybody, because it's everybody thinks different. Everybody has different goals and ideas how they approach certain things, you know. And I'm also just really talking about, this is really addressed only to people who don't have a huge bank account where they can just throw money at the damn boat, you know. I'm talking about really where rather throwing money at the boat, throw your work and your time at the boat. because the money is really then not the big problem. I mean, I'm not talking about, don't try to fix an 80-foot super yacht. No, I mean, stay within your limits. If you're like me, I have this 37-foot sailboat, which is almost too big for me. I had a good deal. I got this thing so dirt cheap, and I really love the design of those traditional full keel classic sailboats. To me, they're very aesthetic, and it's a real boat to me. I mean, I'd rather had just a 30-foot. I was happy with my Tartan 27. It was a tiny little bit too small as far as interior space, not as sailing performance, by no means. This fucking thing would have gone around the world 50 million times without any problems. Not that I ever did this. I would like to, but I have never done something like that either. And if you want to get experience about people who actually doing long passages on sailing around the world or crossing oceans, there's so many great clips out there, and there's lots of channels I subscribe to, and I love to watch them, and they also give me incentive. And there's another thing, yes, watch a lot of those sailing channels. Don't go into those the America's Cup or something like that, where they have $100 million boats and 15 people experience cruise and racing around Cape Horn. That's not us. That isn't. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm talking about people who are just like you and me, the Joe Blow, the guy next door, the guy who just loves just the sailing, And again, this is you have to love sailboats. You have to love them, If not, it's don't get into those projects because the neighbor has one or your friends has one. Don't do that. Anyways, getting off track here again. Oh my God, my mind is racing. Yeah. So if you are. Yeah, okay, so I'm gonna go by my personal experience and personal opinion. The type of people who most likely are not gonna follow through and are gonna give up. If you are very social, that means you need people around you. You constantly need friends around you. You can't miss any party. You can't miss any kind of invitation. You can't miss any birthday or anything from anybody. I don't think a sailboat project is for you. Because you're going to have a million of distractions and a million things that can't keep you from your boat. You know who you are, okay? So the next category of people who wants to have the boat to impress others, to just keep up with the Joneses, to show it off, to host. No, you are not going to succeed restoring a sailboat. You're going to give up. You're the type of person who better have a fat bank account, buy that dock ornament that you want to present to your friends, stick it in a prestigious marina, pay your $1,500, $2,000 marina fee, have somebody wash that boat every day for you, and just show off. You're not the type of person who ever gonna restore a boat, Back to people who would have no skills or have an absolutely blatant resistance against anything that they could possibly learn. No, you won't. There's probably a million other things. Other people they probably shouldn't have boats, and most of them don't. So, if you're the person who can be completely happy with yourself and be all by yourself on your boat and work on this boat for hours at a time and then sit back and look at what you have done and be happy. Nobody's going to pat you on your shoulder. Nobody's going to say, great job. No, it's you, and you look at it and you be happy. You're satisfied. The same is when it comes to your boat. If you if you can't bond with your boat, that means if you can't identify with your boat, if you just bought the thing and somehow you don't understand the boat, that means you haven't bonded with your boat. You don't trust your boat. It's just a piece of plastic that floats around on the water, or steel or wood, whatever it's built of. Again, I'm talking from my own boats. Those are basically fiberglass. They're plastic boats, the classic plastic, what they call them. So I love my boat. I mean, it's just I feel connected to it because of the work I've done already on it, and I find it aesthetic. It's not the prettiest by no means. The interior, some of it's still original. A lot of stuff I have modified to my own liking. Lately, I started painting most of the interior white because I really love the classic look of wood. But the thing is, that Alberg 37 is not very large in the interior, and I found it gotten a little bit depressing, and all the darkness inside. So I decided, you know what, this is my boat. This is not a show object. I don't want anybody going to boat and ooh and ah how great the woodwork is and the cabinetry and whatever. So I painted everything white, brighten up the boat. I feel happier, I also focus more on putting a big screen TV in there and my DVD player because I love watching movies. I love sitting inside and watching movies after I'm done working. So this is a big one. You're gonna have to bond with your boat. You have to trust your boat, and no matter what you plan on doing with your boat, you have to believe this boat gonna take you anywhere you want to go, and they're gonna take you back safe. So once you have this personal connection established, what's holding you back to keep working on it? Because you're working on yourself, really. You work on your boat, you work on yourself. That's how you have to look at it, Who gives a shit how many hours you spend on the boat, I mean, there's people that are going in a damn gym and training their body and pissing money away just to run on a treadmill or on a Stairmaster or whatever shit is in there. You get the same exercise on your boat for free in a sense, but at the end of the day, you got something accomplished, So always try to see the positive. Or you learn different skills you never knew you had. For instance, wiring. All the wiring on old boats, they're bad. Don't band-aid them. Don't try to, okay, why is the stern light why is it dim? I put a new light bulb in. I'll tell you why it's dim, because the fucking cable inside is corroded out from the inside out. It builds up too much resistance, so it doesn't matter how many light bulbs you change, it's not going to be bright. Here's the fix for it. You have to rip the cables out. Back in the days, they didn't use tint wires. You have to get marine-grade tint copper wires. They're not that much more expensive than regular wires. Buy it in bulk. Go on eBay. Go somewhere and buy them in bulk. And then start pulling all the old wires out. I mean, not reconnecting and where you see something is burned up or smoked away. No, rip the shit out. Get rid of the old wires. And make it more simple. Some boats that were wired really strange, they made it more complicated than it had to be, I mean, first you're gonna do the legal stuff. You need the navigation lights. You need a red and a green, left and right, starboard, port, whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. And you need a stern light and you need an anchor light. And you need a steaming light. So this is basically what 4 different circuits. Very simple. Get familiar with the 12-volt DC circuit. There is nothing easier in this world. It's a positive and it's a negative. It's 12 volt. It can't hurt you. You can't electrocute yourself on it. So that's number 1. Learn it. It's really not a whole lot, Don't use wire nuts on anything. Go get heat shrink connectors and connect everything with heat shrink. You'll never have a problem afterwards. As far as the shore power system, the 110 outlets, don't clutter the whole boat with 110 outlets. You will just look at it. Once you're out in the ocean or out in the lake, you don't have 110 unless you get a big generator or some shit, you know. But normally you don't have 110. So the way I wired my boat, I run an inverter. It's a pure sine wave inverter. It got about, I think, got 2,000 watt from Xantrex. And I got a couple of outlets, and I can run as much as a coffee maker, toaster oven, even a small space heater. It can handle it, but mostly it's for my electronic, watching movies or shit like this, you know. Don't get carried away with all that stuff, you know, because again, it's gonna get overwhelming, you know. So make sure, some of the most important thing, most likely your boat has a diesel engine in there. Make sure that engine is in tip-top shape. I mean in tip-top shape. Make sure it doesn't ooze oil out. First off, if you have an engine that leaks oil, number one, it stinks up the boat, you know. It's horrible. The oil goes in the bilge. You pump the bilge pump kicks on, you're pumping oil in the water. You can get in trouble for the shit, actually, you know. And there's no reason why it should, you know. Now, of course, if you got an old 50-year-old Perkins motor in there, they will leak oil. They leak oil just because, out of general principle, you can rebuild a Perkins, they're still gonna leak oil. If you have something like a Yanmars are usually bone dry motors, great motors, some of the best motors you can get. Kubota's a great motor. Beta Marine uses Kubota, which I have in my boat. Great motor. They don't leak oil. Anyway, but the bottom line is your motor has to be in tip-top shape, okay? You need to make sure this thing doesn't overheat. It doesn't run out of oil, you know. Your propeller shaft turns freely. The packing gland doesn't spray out water every time your drive shaft spins, you know. But anyway, so that's those little details, you know. Okay, I don't know what else to say right now. I think I'm gonna just end this video here. If I get, I'm just gonna look what kind of response I get. If you like this video and you would just know more about this whole thing of restoring the boats well, let me put it this way. I can only talk for myself, the way I did it. The proof is in the pudding. My boat was in piss poor shape when I got it, and now it's really in nice shape, you know. The one I had before, the tartan shit, that thing didn't even have a floor anymore in there. The floor was a array of rotted out wooden stringers, you know, and there was basically no more interior. And by the time I sold it, it was 100% seaworthy. I had a couple of smaller boats before that I restored, sold, and they were great. So I think I'm doing at least something right, and I just want to share it. So to bring this video to an end, again, I'm almost begging you, if you already have put lots of effort in your boat and you really like the boat, and it doesn't really matter how big the boat is, how old the boat is, how new the boat is, what type of boat it is, you know. I mean, you could actually almost, you know, convert it over to power boats, but that's a different story. I don't want to really get into them, you know. Don't give up. Just don't walk away, and stop saying I'm done, I'm just gonna sell it. You're basically, that's a self-fulfilling prophecy. The more you talk yourself into it to just walk away from it, count your losses, what does that even mean? Why did you start in the first place? Seriously, stop this negative thinking. And again, get rid of anybody who is negative about it. Get rid of people who are dragging you down. I mean, you don't have to cancel them out of your life. Just get them away from your boat. Don't talk about your boat. Your boat is your personal thing. Whatever you do in your boat, whatever you do, what color you paint the damn thing. You can paint it pink with blue dots on it. Doesn't matter as long as you like it. It is your boat, you know. Don't compare your boat to another boat. Don't look at this guy in the next slip that has this brand new Beneteau, 57-foot ocean racer that costs $1.5 million with every bells and whistles. No, don't look at the boat, because here's one thing, and it doesn't matter how expensive or cheap your boat is. They all do the same thing. They float on the water. Well, at least they should. If they're not floating on the water anymore, you get a different problem. But anyways, out on the water, they almost do, every boat almost does the same thing. They go up and down in the wave. Well, preferably, you don't want the wave going over the boat. And especially when it comes to sailboats. If the guy next to you has a $1 million boat and you have a $10,000 boat, the sailing fun is the same. There is no difference. Yeah, you have more luxury on that $1 million boat, so you can go downstairs and sip your perfectly chilled wine, run the air conditioner or whatever. But when it comes to sailing, to enjoying the actual sailing, as long as your rigging works, your rudder works, the boat is seaworthy, let's say on your sails don't rip apart as soon about 5 miles an hour wind hits it, and your mast doesn't snap like a fucking rotten toothpick, hey, you're gonna enjoy it just as much as that multimillionaire with his whatever show-off boat. Okay, this is it for now. Again, as the title says, I'm giving up on my boat. That was just to get your attention. I'm really meaning, and I really mean it, do not give up. Follow through. It will give you life. I mean, it's just gonna be so much more meaningful. And in the end, you're gonna look back one day and say, I am glad I stuck through it. It's not like a bad marriage. Don't compare it to that. A bad marriage is a bad marriage because you deal with another human being that's unpredictable. It's out of your control. Your boat is not a living being. It is simply an inert object. Okay, it is made out of fiberglass and wood and steel and aluminum or whatever. It's not gonna turn on you. Okay, so giving up on your boat is basically giving up on your own capabilities. Okay? Well, thank you for watching it all the way to the end. I really, really hope I can encourage some of you to just stick with it, because I have had a few friends so far giving up on their boat, and you know what, in the end they're not happy that they gave up, but it's too late, because once you get rid of the damn boat and have all those losses, there's a good chance you're never going to start again, and you will regret it. One way or another, you're going to regret it. Thank you for watching.